Hello again for the third time. So this is my third video I've recorded today. It's now dark, so the lighting is not near as good as it was before. I do not look near as good as I did earlier today, so I apologize. I could have waited until tomorrow when the lighting was magnifique, but I couldn't do it. I had to get it out today. And so I watched a video that was titled you can look it up. I'll include it in the description, the video description, but it's titled The Behavior of People Who Have Suffered Too Much in Life. And so it's Carl Jung, and I'd like to, talk about that. I really love Carl Jung and his writings, him and Nietzsche. They've been very helpful for me. And so, yeah, just kind of the introductory of this video. So some people seem cold. They seem distant, hard to love. But in truth, they're just trying not to get hurt again. Pain, it changes the way a person exists. And the worst part is almost no one notices. I mean, I've walked that path, still walk that path, built walls so thick, so high that not even I could see over them. And it wasn't out of malice, but mere survival. Because, when you've been hurt deeply, your psyche never forgets it. It doesn't forget it. It adapts. And Carl Jung once said, pain is the currency with which the soul pays for more consciousness. He didn't romanticize suffering, but saw it as a catalyst for growth. When pain isn't understood, it hides and turns into behavior. I mean, think about it. So the friend who always seems aloof, the partner who pulls away when things get too close, the colleague who never shares their feelings, these aren't personality quirks, they're defense mechanisms. Armor silently stitched together thread by thread with the thread of emotional survival. And I've been that person, still can be that person in certain regards. So I mean, guarded, skeptical of love, expecting the worst, not because I want to be, but because my experiences taught me that vulnerability equals pain. And Jung introduced the concept of complexes, unconscious emotional structures that have a psychic life of their own. They're not flaws. They're emotional memories. Imagine someone who was deeply rejected as a child. I've experienced that. Years later, a delayed text or a neutral expression can trigger intense reactions. It's not overreacting. It's the complex reacting. The wound speaking again with the same force as when it first opened. And yeah, I've felt that moments where a small incident spiraled into overwhelming emotion. At the time, I didn't understand why, but now I see it was my psyche's way of protecting me from reliving past traumas. That's what I enjoy about reading Carl Jung. It helps me understand myself better, reading his work and listening to these videos. Really, I want to dive deeper into who I am and how I operate and connect with other people, that are similar, that operate the same way. But yeah, overthinking became my refuge. It still is. And so, analyzing every gesture, replaying every conversation, projecting future scenarios, it feels like control, but it's just fear in disguise, really. And Jung warned that knowledge alone doesn't transform. Knowing isn't enough. We must live, and living means feeling even when it hurts. And I had to learn to sit with my emotions, to let them wash over me without judgment. Only then I could begin to heal. And so, and that's where solitude comes in, and how useful and needed it really is to have solitude and learn how to be alone. You really expand, and you get better at connecting with other people. I mean, people assume that it makes your social skills worse, or you forget it. You end up acting autistic or whatever, or what people think is autistic. But yeah, I mean, I think it really does. It's helped me a lot. It's helped me to be able to articulate myself more clearly, and just have greater understanding and appreciation for solitude, depth, critical thinking, peace. Peace is huge. That's something that I really hold on to is my peace. You take it where you can get it these days. So, but yeah, I mean, many who have suffered deeply develop an intense sensitivity to others' suffering. They pick up on nuances, they sense emotions and get moved easily. And at first glance, this seems like a virtue, and it can be, but when that empathy pushes past one's own limits and becomes a way of escaping the self, it stops being presence and becomes projection. And I've been there as well, pouring myself into others, trying to fix their pain while ignoring my own. It felt noble, but it was avoidance. True empathy really begins with self-awareness, and only when we learn to care for ourselves can we truly be present for others. So, trusting again isn't a light gesture. It's a risk, a risk the ego in its constant effort to protect learns to avoid, even in seemingly safe situations. The soul stays on alert. And, I had to, still having to unlearn the belief that vulnerability equals danger, to realize that, not all love hurts, that it's possible to love without losing myself. Trust doesn't mean dropping all defenses at once. It means allowing small emotional reality checks and realizing the present can be different. Healing isn't linear. It isn't quick. I can say it's not for sure, but it is possible. It begins when we're willing to look beyond the surface of behavior, our own as well as others. When we realize that others aren't difficult, they're trying to exist with the tools they have, just like we are, just like I am. That's where real empathy is born, and with it, the possibility of becoming more human, more whole, more free. So, I mean, behind every defense, there is a story. And behind every story, an attempt to keep going. The behaviors of someone who has suffered too much aren't flaws. They're responses shaped in chaos. Silent ways the psyche found to, endure the unbearable. Jung understood this deeply. He knew pain doesn't reshape us out of cruelty, but, reorganizes us to survive. What looks like coldness may be containment. What seems like distrust may be protection. What sounds like pride, distance, and excessive rationality, often it's just fear. And fear learned too early and reinforced so many times, it became structure. So healing doesn't start with judgment, but with listening. Not with, rupture, but with presence. Individuation, that Jungian process of becoming who you are, it doesn't happen despite the pain. It happens through the pain, because it's in facing what hurts most that we discover what needs to be transformed. I hope this was helpful for you. Just kind of a quick run through of that, but I love, you know, the idea of individuation. I've gone through this process, continually going through this process, but yeah, I encourage, you know, you to dig deeper into that and watch the video. I'll pin it down below into the, I'll put the link in the video description. All right, good night.